Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tech and Beer. We're live again today from the Celtic Corner in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. And boy, it's a hot one. We really need the beers that we've got today. My guest today is Sean Williams, who is the brand strategist and co-founder of Dashboard Marketing. Dashboard Marketing. Dashboard Marketing.
No, you got it right.
I got it right. I knew I was going to make a mistake. I just was where it was going to be.
That'll be one of many along the way.
Absolutely.
Right?
And today we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic. We're going to be talking about technology and marketing and how technology has affected marketing, both from how it affects us as consumers and how it affects the way companies go to market and leverage technology. So let's get started. So hey, welcome to the show, Sean.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. And
I should have been wearing shorts and a tank top type of thing. But,
absolutely.
I dressed up for this, not knowing how hot it was going to be in here. But
well, we thought we'd just got over the hump with the hot weather, but then today just comes out of the blue and boom. But that's what the beer's for.
There you go. Cheers on that.
Cheers. And what are we drinking today? Do you remember?
I do not. I think it was some special beer from Keys.
Yeah, so I think it's the Zwickel beer.
Okay.
I may have pronounced that wrong. It's especially made for the Celtic Corner here by Alexander Keith's down in Halifax. And it's really interesting. It's kind of cloudy, so you think it's going to be heavy, but it's light and refreshing. Almost a little kind of citrusy, but not sweet or heavy. Yeah. So yeah, it's delicious. I'm going to have another swig. It's beautiful. So tell me about your background. Obviously, you're a marketing guy, but how did you get into marketing?
Well, funny enough, my marketing adventures kind of started in beer.
Perfect.
I'm going to pitch another company. I started working for Molson many years ago.
Okay.
And was the campus rep at the University of Toronto in Ryerson when I'm originally from Toronto. So it wasn't a bad job to have in the university days where I was driving around delivering kegs to fraternity parties,
You would have been a popular guy.
I had a few friends, and the business card got me into a lot of good places. So I started off then because during the time working for the company, one of the big marketing launches or product launches they did was Red Dog, which a lot of people tried, kind of didn't like, but it was a little bit ahead of its time because it was an alt beer, so it was a bit more of a craft style beer. But the marketing efforts were just over the top.
Wow.
The advertising was everywhere. Tommy Lee Jones was the voice of this Red Dog, bulldog that was used in the advertising.
Awesome.
And it just really intrigued me because it was just an exciting time and it was an exciting effort. So I worked for them for a couple of years and then made a move into the ad agency business in Toronto and worked for a couple big agencies there. Some time on the media side, some on the account service side, and then worked for some big brands, Kraft, CIBC, Dare Foods, a variety of different activities and different brands I worked on. And then made the move to the client side and worked for a company called Nikon, the imaging company, which these guys are using for their audio and video, more the video equipment.
So many tie-ins. There's the beer, there's the cameras.
The beer, the cameras. And I love Nikon because I actually studied photography in university and they were my brand of choice. And it was an exciting time because they were introducing digital photography, entry-level, consumer-level digital photography. And then over those years, I met my wife, and she's a Newfoundlander, also my business partner right now at Dashboard Marketing. And she kind of threw the pitch out about moving east. And after a few years at Nikon, we moved out to Halifax, and awesome. I worked for an agency out here. She worked for a telecommunications company out here, and I launched my own business about almost 11 years ago. It was very creatively named Sean Williams Marketing Group. And then my wife convinced me to get into business with her, and we launched Dashboard Marketing in January.
Fantastic.
So it was, it was good timing, good complementary services for both of us, and our paths in the different areas. She's had a lot of tech and startup experience, market research as well, and I've had others, and a lot of brand focus for me. She's more marketing planning, so it's just really it was the right time to do it, and we've been going gangbusters ever since. So
that's awesome. Fun. Well, you've been involved in the community a lot in lots of other ways as well.
Yeah. When we moved here, it was our we often said we will say yes to everything because we didn't know anybody. Sarah went to school at Dow, I didn't know anybody here in Halifax, and
Yeah.
so we just kind of said yes to everything and got to meet a lot of great people.
Right.
I worked for an ad agency called Bristol, which isn't around anymore, unfortunately, but they opened up a lot of doors for me and introduced me to a lot of different people. And Sarah worked for a local, quite a large telecommunication company locally here, and she met a lot of people that way. So, and when I went out on my own, it wasn't planned, and so from that point I wanted to kind of give back. So that's how we met, was through Startup HFX, and I do a lot of volunteer time and give back to the startup community, and really kind of offer marketing advice to startups and entrepreneurs, which they need a lot of. It's not often top of mind for a lot of businesses. So
and you know what? It's even if you're an established company. I think sometimes for an established company it can be more daunting than for the startup companies, because
that's a good point.
Most of the startup companies a lot of them are in the tech space, so they've got some knowledge of some of the challenges.
Yes and no. Like I'd say in like Volta, working out of there, it's all tech, right?
Yeah.
But I work with Seed, and they're supporting every type of entrepreneur.
Yeah.
They're supporting entrepreneurs that are setting up a retail shop in Dartmouth, or they're setting up an export business to Africa, or whatever it might be. And it's really neat to talk to them about, first of all, their business plan, but often it's whenever we're in front of them or talking to them, the marketing side is the weakest.
Right.
And a lot of it because people aren't marketers. They're entrepreneurs. They've got a great idea. They see the opportunity.
They're good at what they're doing in their business, and that's their focus. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So marketing isn't always top of mind, but it is incredibly important. As I think most people would agree, they just may not have the funds for it. They may not have the resources for it.
Yeah.
They just may not know where to start.
Right.
But your point also is we work with a lot of established companies that have been around for a while, and a lot of them, they're overwhelmed not so much by marketing, but what is going on in marketing.
Right.
So the topic today of just, okay, where do I start? Social media, email marketing, like what is it I need to do, and how do I do it?
Such a big topic. I mean, we've got a slide here that we can just pop up, and it shows the companies that are today in the technology marketing space. And I think there's almost 8,000 of them, 7,000 or 8,000 of them. So when you look at the slide, you can't even make any of them out, right? There's so many companies on the slide. It's such a crowded space.
It's the emphasis of logo soup.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're a business owner and you're looking, how do I choose a tool? What do I leverage? What's your advice there? How do you kind of narrow it down? How do you focus in?
It's going to sound self-serving, but it's often you start with somebody that knows marketing, not technology or marketing technology. It's a lot of companies, be it their internal resource that might be a marketing manager or a VP marketing, would be the first place to look to say, okay, we need to grow, we need to do this, whatever needs to happen. Where do we start? And those internal resources are the best folks to look to.
Right.
Then there's other folks that are external, like myself and my wife at Dashboard, that we advise companies. We give them marketing counsel, and it's across everything, and ultimately it always goes back to what are you trying to do and achieve.
Yeah.
Who's your market segment and your audience group that you really need to engage. And then, okay, let's figure out what's right, because a lot of times, clients will say, well, I need to do more social media marketing. Well, let's step back and figure out, okay, who is your audience and where are they in the social space? What are the best tactics? Do we need to engage them organically? Do we have to target them with paid advertising, remarket to them, whatever that might be? So it is often a tough place to start, and there's other environments. A number of companies work with ad agencies, digital marketing shops. So there's a lot of folks that can counsel them on where to go. We like our approach because the model of the business allows us to be very impartial. We often will actually step into companies and be their marketing, their in-house marketing person for 2 days a week. Yeah. So we're loyal to them, and we'll bring forward the right solutions for their needs. So.
Right. So from your perspective, though, how do you, I guess maybe how is the wrong word, but when you look at the landscape today, like what are the exciting technologies? What are the ones that, because I mean, if you look at me as a consumer, and I've been on kind of both sides of the fence as well, marketing stuff and buying stuff, I'm affected in so many different ways now that I didn't used to be. If you go back 20 years, 10 years, even 15 years, right? Like the technology has changed the game by enabling social media, allowing us to connect in different ways and opening up new platforms. So from your perspective, what are the exciting tools and what are the exciting things that are out there that we should start looking at, companies should start looking at?
It's funny, I just did a talk recently to the Dalhousie MBA class a couple weeks ago, and it was just more about 10 things to look at for marketing. And one of the topics I brought up was search and voice search.
Okay.
Because you talk to a lot of marketers and clients and everybody else, they're like, okay, how do I get my website ranked high? How do I get that keyword found through the search engine and all that?
Yeah.
The challenge companies are now going to have is when people do voice searches.
Right.
Through Google Home, Alexa, all that, and we speak differently than we type.
Yeah.
And up until this point, everybody's been writing content for websites based on how people type stuff in, and tagging images and meta tags and H1s and all these different references to websites and building websites. And now the big shift is, okay, mobile first design and all of that. But now, what is it going to be for voice?
Right.
And I don't like. It's only just scratching the surface. I was talking to a resource we use in the SEO space, and he was talking about the Google Analytics side. And Google, I believe, is looking at how do they track the voice searches.
Right.
Because you can search, by browser and see all the stats and analytics on how people are finding it. What about voice?
Yeah.
And how then do you build a website and populate content in that site for voice?
Right.
So that was a really neat one to look at, because it's the whole idea of how I ask Google Home to search for something is very different than how I'm going to type it in on my computer or on my phone.
I find the whole voice kind of voice-enabled technology kind of interesting, because I always go back to, I'm a Trekkie. I was a Trekkie when I was a kid.
Same here.
And you go back and they, next generation, they walk in the room and they say, computer.
Yeah.
What a prediction for the future. But the thing is, they were predicting it way further out than it's actually come. It's come around now. It's here. Like, we walk in our home and we've got, like you say, Alexa, we've got Siri, we've got, Google.
And how do companies... That, though, the whole kind of machine learning piece, which is another, of course, big topic for everything. Because in this same talk I had with the MBA class, one guy who was in the tech space, he's like, well, when we talked about the whole thing of the machine is listening, like Alexa is listening, right? Yeah. Because she's waiting and listening to what you're saying and adjusting how she feeds you the information based on what she hears. And I'm talking about her as she's a person.
Well.
But then the fit in that piece of, okay, they are evaluating what you're saying, where you're going, what you're doing, what you're searching, and they're learning from that. So they're going to start, understanding better how to put forward the information you're going to ask about.
And you know what? We've all had the experiences where we've searched for something online, and then all of a sudden, the next 20 websites we look at have adverts for what we were searching for, right? We've all had that experience.
Sure.
But I've had some interesting experiences where I'm like, I've been talking about something, and I've gone to websites, and the adverts for what I'm talking about are online. And I don't know if it's public knowledge yet, maybe I'm out of the loop on it, but I'm pretty sure that if you don't have certain things turned on or off, depending what you allow on your smartphone or on your desktop, laptop, it is listening. Even if you've got a smart TV, it's listening, right? And where does that information go? Because sometimes it's really specific items. It's not generic enough that it could just be a guess.
And it's funny you say that, because I remember when when Facebook went through their whole situation of privacy, and Zuckerberg was being interviewed by the Senate in the U.S.
Right.
And I think somebody had asked him, "Do you have the voice capability?" And I don't think he even knew, or he didn't reveal. He said, "Well, I think we do, but it's not turned on yet."
Right.
Well, to that point, I've heard the same reference of, like, somebody's been talking about somebody, and then they go on Facebook, and an ad is presented to them. Yeah. And they're like, well, how did that happen? Because they didn't visit the site, and then in turn, with other references, you'd be remarketed to, because you went to the site, you didn't convert in whatever way, and so they're going to follow you around for a bit. Yeah. So with that, it's like, okay, how did you know that I was talking about that or thinking about that?
Exactly.
It's this whole AI machine learning, like, it's impressive to see what it's doing and how it's going to help things.
Yeah.
it is a little scary at times too.
Absolutely. There's a huge, personally, I've said this before, I don't have any, or I minimize the smart devices. I don't have a smart TV, I don't have Alexa, and I'm not there yet. I don't think we understand the risks fully. And it's not that I don't like it, I think it's amazing. But again, when you've got a family and the data that they are, until I'm assured that I know exactly what data they're collecting and I've got control of that data, you know what I mean? I'm not quite ready for it yet.
Yeah.
But
again, it's
going to come, and I'm probably going to be uncomfortable when it comes. But then I'll get used to it, and it'll just be
Star
the way
Trek. It was there, and it's it is here. But again, interesting in the session, one of the other students talked about her sector, which was health services, and a lot of people in retirement living facilities or nursing homes, assisted living, they might have this, and it's they prefer that type of device than say something that's around their neck that they press or whatever.
Right.
Because they can call out saying, hey Google, I've fallen down, call 911.
Right.
Like, and so it's that safety aspect for certain people in certain situations.
That makes so much sense. Yeah.
But again, they're going to be listening, and especially of that older generation, it's even probably more shocking or surprising when they get something fed to them or presented to them that they're like, how did you know?
So let's talk a little bit, got a fly there, let's talk a little bit about some of the tools that are available to businesses today. And I know that things like marketing automation is a big buzzword, and there's lots of platforms out there that businesses can subscribe to. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, because a lot of that stuff is, as a person in my role, a little bit sales focused. So, I've used tools where we link up to our website, we grab people's information, we use it, it pulls in a lead, and it can give me a surprising amount of information, but a lot of is it accurate? Is it not accurate? Is it?
Well, I think it's going to be as effective as it can be based on the data that's, the whole big data piece of, okay, what data do you have available? And in turn, who's managing it? Because one thing that a lot of companies don't realize is they talk about marketing automation, we're going to automate this, automate that. That's great, but the resources behiund it, you need to keep in mind. Who's going to manage this? You need people to manage it, and it's not some, consumer or a computer science grad out of Dow.
Right.
It's somebody with thought about engaging a lead, customer service, putting somebody through that path to purchase, that type of thing. So there's got to be some thought towards it and understanding of the bigger picture, the messaging, the brand, all of that. But then the other piece is the content that a lot of these systems feed. So what are you going to put in that email that goes out to somebody that's inquired about this?
Right.
Or what white paper you're going to create for that downloadable engagement conversion opportunity to collect that email address and then carry on, right? There, like a lot of clients, and one client I worked for that was a national retail automotive group, we spent, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 just on creating content. And this was, blog content, this was white papers, this was, case studies, it was all this different type of content that would feed all of this. And I think a lot of people don't realize the surrounding elements that come into play. And a lot of these companies will create this content for you, which is great. But again, you've got to brief them, you've got to tell them what your brand's about, what your messaging is, what your buyer personas are, all of the different elements you need to fit into that and allow them to do it.
I've been in situations where you got to be careful with the people that create content for you because, I've been in situations where we hired a company, one of my past employers, we hired a company to create a whole bunch of content and post it on social media, and probably 80% of it wasn't relevant. It was kind of close, but it was almost like they had hired someone that didn't quite know us. There was a little bit of a gap there, and they were using the tool perhaps, and it was like, so there are gaps in the technologies and the processes, right? Like it's not foolproof yet. So you're right. You got to have someone that manages it correctly.
It really does. I'm always, and I do sound like a broken record with certain clients. I will always go back to a couple fundamental pieces that are, they're old school in the sense of marketing. It's your brand, and your audience. And if you don't have a clear understanding of those pieces, everything else is not going to work. It's really not going to work for you. And then of course everything else, there's so many other things that come into play then. Do you have the right people in place to manage those elements and then bring in the right resources to automate things and ultimately to drive business? Because everything you're doing and has to be done is to drive business.
Yeah.
Growth, sustaining something, retaining people. It's not all about acquisition, it's the retention piece as well. So all of these things, it's awesome that there's so much opportunity and there's so many technologies and services available. But if you don't have the understanding of who you are, who your customers are, and what that plan is, it's just going to waffle, and it can't be the corner of somebody's desk.
Yeah.
A lot of clients, that's the issue, right?
I talk about it a lot with all of my clients, really, and it almost doesn't matter what the technology is if you don't understand the business when you implement it.
Yeah.
You're really just like, hey, how much am I going to throw against the wall and hope it sticks, right? It's like a crapshoot. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, and back to all these tools and technologies. If you look at your audience and be it whatever segment, they're all going to be touched by technology in some way, and they're going to use some sort of technology. But how do they want to be communicated to?
Right.
And this is a bit anti the conversation, but I've worked with clients where we've gone old school, where we found out through customer discovery that the one thing that they really appreciate is a handwritten note from the president.
Right.
Thank you for your business.
Yeah.
I've got one client that he sits down, I think it's almost every Friday for half of the day, and just writes out personal notes to his customers to thank them for the business.
Yeah.
Now they do email outreach, they do blogs, they've got an active website that converts, they're present on social media, they're all of these things, which are all the other things we got them into. But that was another recommendation. We said, well, we found this out about your customers, and we can do all this great stuff, but maybe you should add this little piece because it's going to get you business.
Right.
And even though it's soft and fuzzy and all that, it does get business. It keeps business, and it's talked about.
So, change track a little bit here. So, if I'm a business owner today, what technology tools should I be using? Like, what are no-brainers to you that are like, boom, I should be doing this?
Well, and I don't mean to not answer the question, but again,
you can't not answer the question.
No, but it goes, I keep going back. It goes back to your customers.
Sure. But
So
there's a lot of tools out there.
Oh, sure. And email, for instance, email is not dead. And I even work in the higher education sector, and everybody says, oh, well, potential students aren't using email. Email still has a place in that process and engaging them. Email's big, social media, of course, but again, doing the evaluation of what is the right environment to be in. You can't be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
If you are a B2B skewed company, LinkedIn, of course, is a great environment for just finding the contacts you want to reach out to. If you're into more like the retail side, Facebook, even though they've had security issues, it's now another search engine, right? People are going on Facebook to find out hours, post reviews, all
What's
that
your thought on Facebook for B2B? Because I've heard two different schools of thought on it. One is, it's like getting invited to somebody's barbecue that you don't really know. And then the other thought is, well, everybody's on it, so you should be on it.
Yeah, and it's with and actually one of your past guests, Kevin from Conduct. I worked for Conduct for a year and worked with them on their marketing efforts, and we looked at social and boosted, while I was with them, really boosted up their efforts. Facebook wasn't part of the mix.
Right.
Because we did the evaluation. We looked at who our audience was and where they were, and now saying that, a Facebook-owned company, Instagram was definitely an environment that we had to step into because a lot of their strength and conditioning coaches and sports, characters were definitely present in that space.
Yeah.
So again, it kind of goes back to that customer discovery that if you're a B2B company, go out and find out who's out there. Are your competitors on Facebook? Are your customers on Facebook? You got to do that research to really understand who's there and who isn't.
How about tools that are like behind the scenes, like the the HubSpots of the world and Hootsuites and stuff like that? Are there any of those that really interest you or excite you?
Oh yeah, HubSpot's a great resource, and I know even just locally, there's a couple marketing firms that are HubSpot certified and really utilize that with a lot of their kind of tools they offer their clients. And I've talked to clients about HubSpot, but again, it goes back to, okay, do you have the budget? Do you have the resources to manage this, and how does it fit into the broader efforts? Social media management tools, for sure, like Hootsuite is often been my go-to for clients. Sprout Social is another one that's quite good.
I've heard of that, yeah.
And the only challenge there is you have to pay for deeper level analytics and more accounts, and again, it just depends on what it is.
Yeah.
And those tools, especially on the social side, are godsend, because to manage each channel is very challenging. Again, you're paying somebody a chunk of money to manage all this. These are tools that make their efforts and their time better spent and better focused.
Yeah.
But even there's limitations with some of these. Some of them, there's technical limitations with the APIs that plug into Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever that might be. So you always have to kind of watch who's connected to the social platforms and who's not. And part of it is a bit of due diligence when you're looking at them, right?
It's funny because you talk about who's connected. One of the fights I've always had in every organization I've worked with is when they talk about social media, it's like, yeah, we want to do more in social media, we want to do this, we want to do that. I'm like, okay, well, you've got to have all of your people engaged in it, because it's the key word there is social, right? Like, if you don't have everybody engaged and not just, oh yeah, they have an account. Do they log on once every 6 months and just, they've got to be engaged, they've got to be liking stuff, they've got to be sharing stuff that their colleagues share. That's how social media works, right? So that's interesting.
It's I 100% agree with that, because whenever we do talk to clients about social, we ask them about getting themselves set up. Like, I'm working with another retail company here. They're a manufacturer and they're a retailer, and it's been great because a number of their employees, through seeing the success on social, we've amped up their efforts, but also seeing the customers being present and active on the certain social channels, they've stepped in. And they're actively using it now as a business evaluation. Who's using what products? Are they using ours? Like that type of research effort. The retail part of it is challenging, because some people are very comfortable with social, some aren't. So one store manager is very active on Instagram, posting a lot of great photographs. We share the material we post through the corporate channels. But then other managers, they're like, I don't really use social, and no fault with them. So we say, okay, let us just take pictures, collect content, or maybe get somebody else at your store to do it, and we'll share it. So we'll take care of that. So there is that social media management element that comes into play. But it's still a tough sell. Like, you think, oh, come on, everybody's on social. Well, everybody is, but they're not actively on social, and they're not comfortable.
The active piece is
because that's the other thing, it's comfort, right? Because as we all know, Snapchat changes its interface. Instagram changes this. Facebook changes that. Like, everything changes. So for a certain segment of the population, they're like, oh man, this is too confusing. I'm not going to even do it. And also, there's a lot of, excuse my language, a lot of bullshit out there that's posted.
For sure.
A lot of waste.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's like, okay, I don't need to see that. I'm going to unfollow them because of what they're posting, and it's just fluff, and it's not interesting, and it's not relevant.
Yeah.
So.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you very much. It's been,
that was it. My gosh,
that's it.
That went by really
25
quickly.
minutes goes. Whew. We could keep talking for another couple of hours probably. But,
I enjoy. Of course, I'm in the business, so I do enjoy talking about marketing. So if anybody needs more advice or services, dashboardmarketing.ca is our website, and that one there.
That one there.
Myself, Sean, or Sarah would gladly have a chat with you. So.
Yeah, and thanks for watching, guys. It's another interesting episode comes to an end, and going to be posted pretty soon on techandbeer.ca. And don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, and YouTube. And see you next time. Have a good one.